everybody to our section in Lima, the new section that we have every last Saturday of each month. We are here with vision, sustainable perspective versus our cultural patterns of reality. How are you today? We are having a tremendous, amazing program today with a guest speaker that we love so much because she's an expert in a subject that we don't know. Although we need to understand that maybe we know, but we don't. It's footprint. Today's subject is footprint. Do you have a footprint in your house? Do you have a footprint in your life? Do you have a footprint for yourself in your health? Let us introduce to you Mary Ann Boyer. Hey, Mary Ann, how are you?
Hey, Carrie, good. Thank you for having me today. I'm really excited to be on your show.
Oh my God, it's a pleasure. You're looking good, Mary Ann.
Thank you. You too, Carrie.
Oh, thank you so much. Okay, so let's go to the subject that is concerning today, footprint. I will introduce to everybody who is Mary Ann, okay? Mary Ann Boyer's background is in education and environmental science. In 2015, Mary Ann and her business partner, Ann Sudut, founded Boyer Sudut Environmental Consultants, a consulting firm that helps schools and businesses adopt more environmentally sustainable practices in their operations and institutional behavior. In 2018, Boyer Sudut Environmental Consultants were one of 3 nominees of Sustain PHL's Impact Business Leader Award for businesses that are proof that enterprises can be stewards of social and environmental change. Mary Ann taught high school, middle school, and lower school science for 16 years. Oh my gosh. Prior to teaching, Mary Ann was an environmental scientist at the U.S. Environmental Protection Agenda in Philadelphia. She holds a master's in environmental science from Yale School of the Environment. She received the Garden Club of America's Elizabeth Abernathy Hall Award for outstanding contributions to environmental science. Mary Ann is also a Climate Reality Leadership Corps member. In July 2020, she was training the virtual training from Mr. Al Gore of the Philadelphia and Southeastern PA chapter. Greetings to them. Mary Ann and her husband live in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. She is the mother of 3 children and is an enthusiastic biker, hiker, and piano player. We love music. I share that with you. I love music. Hi, Mary Ann. How are you?
I'm good, Carrie. Just, as I said, excited to be here today and talk to you about footprints.
Oh my God, that's a subject that I think I know, but deep inside me, I think I don't know anything. Like I tried, like a footprint is like a diet plan based or like a diet for me to lose weight and be healthy or just protect the environment. Like we don't know what a footprint is. And what's a print? What's a footprint with T and a footprint with D? You know, like there's a lot of things, but please let me know. I want to know everything about you. I know the audience wants to know everything, who our guest speaker so marvelous, amazing is. So please, I have a question for you. Why are you so passionate about the environment?
Well, Carrie, I think it goes back to when I was a young child. I grew up in Pennsylvania in a small town, and I happened to be, it was very rural in the countryside. And so I spent a lot of time outside, and my parents were really interested in hiking and biking, and I did the same. So I think that passion then connecting with nature then just helped me as I continued, into adulthood. So I feel just when I'm outside, I'm my happiest.
Right. And I think that for everybody should be the same. Like nature is totally connected with us, the human beings. We need nature. We are so passionate about being outside and just breathing the air that we have around us, right? The animals and everything that we have around us that God gave us. So that is wonderful. And can you tell me, like, in your experience, what is so good about nature that gives us that breath in us? What about climate change and everything that we are dealing with here?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think that studies show that even spending 15 minutes outside in nature helps to lower your blood pressure and your stress hormones. And it also sometimes, you can have those creative juices flowing when you're outside. So I've seen, as when I was teaching middle school students, I would take them outside and I could see even the most hyper child really start to kind of calm down and in nature. So I think that it just has this power for even having pictures of nature in your office or your home also helps to calm people down. So we have that really biological affiliation where we want to be part of connected to nature.
Right. And what can one person do to help our planet, especially when the issue of climate change is so big and so actual, the subject that everybody's talking about, and with the new administration in the United States from Mr. Biden and Mrs. Kamala Harris, like everybody's talking about that. So what can one person can do to help that with this subject that we are dealing with?
Yeah, and sometimes I read that people will say, oh, one person can't make a difference. It really has to be policy changes. Well, I think one person can make a difference. I think it's a combination. I mean, if we look at ways that we can kind of reduce our environmental footprint on the planet, that's by making small changes, then telling those changes or being a model to our children or students or family members, then that kind of spreads outward. So we have the ability to kind of make some changes. And I think where to start can be with our diet. And I just want to also say sometimes climate change can be so overwhelming, like such a big problem that sometimes young people, we want to make sure that we don't scare people that they think, oh, it's too big a problem, there's nothing I can do about it. We want to make sure that people are aware of it, but also know that, yes, there are things that we can do. We're all here on this planet to kind of help to work together to protect our Earth.
And how does climate change affect the footprint? I mean, okay, first of all, like, what is a footprint? Because maybe nobody knows what a footprint is, or they're just making suggestions or assuming something that they don't know. So yeah, what is a footprint?
Yeah, and I'm just also going to emphasize again, as you did, Carrie. So, we talked, as Carrie said, footprint, and then there is food print. So if you think of food print, just like a footprint has an impression on the earth, what is your food print? What is your impression on the earth? It's basically the result of everything, all the different steps that go into, that takes to get your food from a farm to your fork. So there are many hidden steps that we consumers just don't think about what the impacts are. So
okay, let me think.
Yeah, no.
From the farm to the fork. I mean,
Yeah.
the fork of eating, the fork
Yeah.
that we have
Yeah.
in our table, like
Yeah.
from the farm. So when they produce the food there and they gather it and then it's in my home because I buy it and I have the fork to eat, and that's like from the farm to the fork, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Oh, okay. That's a great answer. Yeah.
And so, Carrie, there are a lot of different steps that go into if let's take corn, for example. If
Okay.
you're growing corn, all right, think about the soil that you need.
Okay.
You need the water, you need the seeds, you need the farmer to have the labor to plant the seeds in the ground. So whether that's done with tractors, which run on fossil fuel, which is emitting, carbon into the atmosphere, then the corn, and then also the farmer might be adding fertilizers or pesticides to make sure the corn is growing. And then there's the harvesting of the corn and the collection of it. Then there's the taking the corn to the plant or wherever, whether it's being
the distribution, like when
exactly, yeah, the packaging, and then if it goes in plastic bags, if it's frozen corn, well, then you have you have to keep the energy that's used in the refrigeration of the corn. I haven't even talked about the transportation that you have to go from the factory to the stores, and then as consumers, we are then going to the stores. We're using, perhaps if we're not walking there, or we're using fossil fuels to get there. and then bringing it home, the energy used to cook the food. And then, so there are so many steps that we just don't think about, and they're kind of invisible. So that's kind of when you think about the food print, those are some of the resources that go into just getting your food from the farm to the fork.
And that's a lot of people, a lot of production just to get the food to our home and our fork, you know, like there's a lot of activities there from the farm to the fork. There's a lot of things that we need to do. Like I talk about beef because we are all involved. If we don't buy the food, there's no farm, there's no production. So, and the climate change is also involved here, because if we are not aware of climate change, for the farmers, for all the ecological things that agricultural things that farmers do, is the same thing. So how can we get people's attention to take care about food waste? And what is a food waste? I mean, what does this has to be like, what this process of the footprint has to be with everything, you know, like everything is interconnected. So how about food waste and footprints, and how can we deal with that?
Yeah, so so there's one more part to that farm to fork. There's also what do we do with it? And that's what you were getting at with the food that is wasted. So we eat, we don't want to, you know, we might not eat everything, we throw it away. So then that goes to sometimes to a landfill. So if you think of farm to fork to landfill, we in America are wasting a lot of food. In fact,
do you have any percentage of that?
I do, as a matter of fact. So in fact, a whopping 40%, 40% of food never makes it from farm to fork. In other words, it just is wasted.
Oh my gosh, that's a lot.
That is a lot. Now, I know your production team is in Mexico. Yeah. Mexico is better. The food waste there is 34% instead of 40. But
it's still a lot.
It's still a lot. And in fact, there's also a lot of dollars that's associated with that waste. So the cost per year of just the food that we are throwing away, and I'm going to say, well, why are we throwing away some of this food? It might be because the serving size was too much. We were full. It might be the shelf life in our refrigerator. The food has expired, or we've been told, okay, time to get rid of it. Sometimes those expiration dates aren't really accurate. Sometimes they want you to throw food away sooner. Also, it could be because of ugly fruits and vegetables that people just won't buy because they're ugly fruits and vegetables. So we need to be more open to not having to have the perfect apple or the perfect tomato. So so those are some of the reasons why we are throwing away our food. And serving sizes, as I mentioned. So I'll say the costs per year in Mexico, it's 4 billion pesos in 1 year for food waste. In the world, we're throwing away the equivalent of $1 trillion because of food waste. 1 trillion.
Wow. I will say it in Spanish. $1 trillón son desperdiciados en la comida que no comemos y la desperdiciamos y la tiramos a la basura. I just said that there's $1 trillion there for food waste. I mean, we can literally feed all the poor people that has no food and they cannot eat. I mean, we can just have generations of the SDGs and the United Nations done, noted with a post-it, this is done. We don't have more poverty in the world with all the food waste that we have. So this is a great issue. Like climate change, it's a great issue. And I don't think that everybody knows about this. So I love this subject. And let me ask you something also. So what's a waste, Edith? I mean, I know that you work in schools, you work everywhere, like high school, middle school, lower school, you did everything. And congratulations for that. For myself, for you, congratulations. I mean, it's so hard to educate. So congratulations for that. May God bless you for that. And you have conducted a waste audit, right? But what's a food waste audit? What's an audit?
Yeah, so just like it's tax time now, where the accountants are auditing our taxes, a waste audit is what we've done at schools, where the students are actually weighing how much waste they have thrown away in a day. And so we found when we do a waste audit, and I'm not only, yes, we collect food waste, but it can just be whatever is in the trash can in general. So when we've done a waste audit, we've asked the school, we've worked with the students and teachers to say, all right, one day, don't throw away all of the bags of trash, let's keep them. And we've had students actually weigh each bag with one of those luggage spring weights that you can kind of, yeah, so you can weigh that. And we've had the students count the bags, we've had them open up the bags, and we've had cloth tarp on the ground where they're actually sorting through the waste. And we also will, so they're looking at, okay, plastic and paper and then food waste. And we found when we do a waste audit with students that that's all of a sudden a aha moment, because they all of a sudden see like, wow, here's somebody threw away an apple. There's just one bite in there and they threw it away. Or here's a sandwich in a whole plastic bag with, one or two bites. So when students are all of a sudden aware of how many pounds of trash that's generated, so as I said, food waste, but then waste in general, that's in one day. And then you turn that into a teachable moment saying, all right, what about 5 days of this? If this is one day, what about a month? What about a school year? What can you, the students, do about helping to reduce our waste? And so that's when then they start to come up with the solutions and just start to be mindful of how wasteful we can really be.
And that applies to everything, not only the school, because you work there, but I mean, it applies to everything. Because I was thinking like going into the food waste and just separating them and just auditing the food waste from our, really like from our home, for what we eat every night, every single day, that we have the food waste after we have dinner or something, or just breakfast or brunch, like our watch party and we have friends there and we are having food or something. I mean, it's literally like gross to go there to the, to the trash and like audit the food waste. But what can you tell me about the advantages of doing something that you have to put gloves in yourself and just know that you're going to go in the food waste, in the trash, just to do something better for yourself?
So what are some of the advantages of, you're asking, of knowing about what's in your trash?
Yes.
I think it's just an awareness of like, wow, we produce a lot. So I want to show you share a screen for a second of, let me just put share screen and then I'll pull the present, because I think art can actually really make a difference in a statement when we're having those visuals. Let me just hit present.
Yes, please.
And let me hang on one second. Boom. Okay. All right. Can you see that, Carrie?
Yes. Wow.
Okay. So we have two images here. We have an image of this guy on the left. His name is Rob Greenfield, and he is wearing the amount of waste that the average American, because I think Americans are more wasteful than other, many other parts in the country. The average of what the average American wastes in a month. So let's back up for a second. What is, so the average American in one day generates a number of pounds. Any idea of how many pounds the average American wastes in one day?
No, how many? I'm a freaking out here. Like how many?
Yeah, so 4.5 pounds. So 4.5 pounds of waste the average American does in one day. So this guy, one day. So oh my, again, like think about what that means in a week and then in a month. So it's about 135 pounds. And he's in 1 month. So he's looking like this because he's wearing the equivalent of 135 pounds. And he walked down New York City to make a statement about, wow, we're wasteful. So this is where I think that it's great when you have art or you have photographs that show a picture's worth 1,000 words, because you can't help walking by somebody like this and saying like, whoa, what's happening here?
Yeah, I don't care or something. What are you doing? You're crazy or something. Why are you doing this? Yeah, the awareness.
Yeah,
course.
so that visual all of a sudden is like next time you're throwing away or when you're buying some food, maybe thinking about or anything, the packaging that goes into it. The other photo is the
Mhm.
same guy, Rob Greenfield, and he wanted to again raise awareness about food waste. So he bicycled 1,000 miles from the West Coast to New York City, and he did about 300 dumpster dives. Do you know what I mean with the dumpster dives?
No.
How that translates, but like, you know, that where when a big store or a grocery store will throw away food, they'll put it in a big dumpster, okay?
Okay.
And a big metal container with a lid. And so he did not want to go buy food. He just wanted to look into what food was being thrown away at grocery stores. And this beautiful arrangement here is just some of the food that he was able to rescue
In the
because
dumpsters?
in the dumpsters.
Oh my gosh. For real? Oh my gosh.
I mean, look at that. There's whole bagels, there's juices, there's, you know, containers of milk.
Wow. I thought it was like a model for food, like he was trying to make a point there with the donuts and everything and milk and whatever. And no, this is the food waste of dumpsters, like literally.
Yes. So
Wow.
perfectly good bagels or juice, again, back to those, whether it's the expiration dates or whether it's just, okay, so this is again raising awareness. So this is why I love like art or photographs where people can, it tells the story because just even when I said earlier, oh, Americans waste 4.5 pounds a day, it's hard to visualize that. But then when you go back to seeing what
They're
is,
visual. Yeah.
yeah.
Human beings are visual. Yeah.
So anyway.
This is amazing. Thank you for this.
Oh,
I
sure.
needed it. Yeah.
So, Carrie, you had talked about food waste, and I have a couple other slides to show.
Yes,
If that's
please. I
okay.
would love to. Yes, please.
Okay, so I wanted to show you. We talked about food waste. We mentioned that, and the amount of in Mexico it's 34%, and as I said, in America it's 40%. And here are the costs, as I mentioned, in the world. So this is just a quick review. But food waste and climate change, you had asked about that. So there is so much food waste in the country that if food waste were a country, it would be the world's third largest emitter of greenhouse gas emissions. So think about that. So if food waste, we generate so much, if it were a country, it would be the world's third largest emitter. Number one emitter of greenhouse gas emissions is the United States, sadly, and two is China. But food waste, that's a pretty big item. So I have another fact for you about food waste that I'll share.
Yes, please.
In the United States, the food waste emissions is equivalent to driving 37 million cars. And this is the source from the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization. So that's why should we care about food waste? And I haven't even mentioned like when food goes to a landfill, it releases methane gas, and methane is.
I want to ask you that. What does the farm to fork to landfill mean? Like,
yeah. So okay, we throw away the food, and if we don't have a way of, if we don't have a compost pile, which where you can toss it in your, whether it's to break down it in your yard or neighborhood or a program, if it goes to a landfill, then what happens is you have all of that waste, so food waste, which could be then mixed in with all the other waste like trash and diapers and cans and plastics. And as that starts to sink down and get compressed, it's more of a anaerobic, little oxygen conditions. So the bacteria that is breaking down the food waste, as it does so, it releases methane, CH4. So methane, and the problem with methane gas is that it's 21 times more powerful, or makes the,
Yes.
the climate more warmer than carbon dioxide. So
Yes.
that's why food in the landfill is a problem. Food in our compost, and if it's broken down naturally, then that's different, because food in the natural, we have a compost pile in our backyard, and basically we just throw our food scraps there with leaves and grass clippings. And as those microbes start to break down the food and that gets all reduced, it returns those nutrients back to the soil. So you're closing that loop, and it's not releasing methane because you have oxygen there. It's a different kind of natural process. So that's why it's better to go, if you can, compost, or go with or try not to produce as much food waste.
Right, and we need to understand the awareness of how can we divide the food waste, right? Because you were talking about diapers, and I can imagine the diapers with the food and everything in the trash, and it's really gross. But
Yeah.
if we separate the cosmetics, the food, and what we're doing, we can literally have an awareness of how to distribute our food waste and make emissions get lighter for the mitigation of the climate change and the global warming that we're having. Because like food waste, I mean, everybody needs food. Everybody needs food. We need food and water to live, to survive. These are our God image bodies that we have, and we need for that. So I think that one of the most incredible troubles that we have is food waste right now. Like
Yeah.
the footprint and climate change, like it's all interconnected. You know, the carbon emissions from the climate change that we have in USA or or China, whatever country it is, just you plus the food waste and the footprint that we are not having, because you say like, oh, the screen share that you make us for the world, that we are having like a lot of issues there, but we're going to go to Mars and just have another planet in Mars, but we are not arranging this one. I was like, I was wondering that, like, you're telling me that there's a lot of things that we need to take advantage and take action right now, and we are planning to our eyes in Mars for what? I mean,
Right.
you
Right. And
know,
yeah. And also,
incredible. I mean,
right.
yeah, please tell
Oh,
me,
no, I
tell
was
me
just
more.
going to
I
say,
want to know more. Yeah.
no, I was just going to say, because we have the technology to send, rovers to Mars, you would think we could be able to somehow address this issue with food waste. So,
We have the technology to solve this problem. I mean, there, you know that I read, I don't know if it was an article from New York Times, that they were creating literally islands for the food waste because there were no trash that can have so much trash. You know, like everybody throws everything and they don't care because it goes in the trash. So like the trash is like all our bad things goes there and we don't care because it goes in the trash. You know, something like that.
right.
And
Right.
we're creating islands to have food waste because they don't know where to throw it, because all not things are recyclable. So we're just having a lot of things here interconnected there. And let me tell you, I want to ask you something. What does eating a meat heavy diet mean for your footprint? Plant-based and meat. What do you think about that?
Okay, great question. So, what we found is if we eat more of a plant forward diet, in other words, I'm not saying everybody should become a vegetarian or vegan, because who does, we love our meat and dairy products. However, if we try and change our thinking to plant forward, where plants are at the center of the plate and meat is to the side, you normally will think, here's your main course, here's the meat at the center, and the vegetables are on the side. Flip that for a plant forward diet. And so it's just focusing on plants. And that means by doing so, it's a healthier you. And there's also less climate change impacts by growing plants and vegetables than it is by raising beef. So,
And what does that mean? I mean, I can understand it, you can understand because we are climate reality years ago and we studied this, but the audience maybe doesn't know what a plant forward diet, why it's a good thing, and what does it mean? I mean, what is eating a plant forward diet mean for our lives? Like, what do we need to change? How do we need to adapt? And how can we do that, you know?
yeah. So I'm going to try and also again show another,
Yes.
if I may.
Yes.
I'm going to show, okay, let me
Yes.
just pull this up for a second and we will share the screen
Okay.
in 1 second. Okay.
Yes.
So, okay, we'll go present again. All right, I'm going to just also show, like, again, back to the food and climate change, just
Yes,
to
please.
produce this. It's 25, it produces our food system habits release 25% of greenhouse gas emissions. All right,
Wow.
so let's break that down. So climate change impacts. This is a map that I want to show you because it shows how the world's land is used. And
Okay.
it shows by the type of land use and cover. So in other words, I'll give you a second to kind of look at it.
Yes, please.
And so what they're doing is they're just showing, they're taking our land use and they're basically saying, all right, how do we use our land in the world? And so our, to just raise livestock for beef, for meat and dairy production, for grazing and feeding crops, that's enough for 27% of our land use is just for livestock. So as you can see, that is the equivalent of covering North America, Central America, and South America for 27% for our meat, beef, you know, and then if you look, forests, it's 26%. So the green area, okay, where you see that. I wish that forests were a higher percentage because we all know that trees, of course, and forests add biodiversity, and of course the roles that trees play in capturing
They
our
collect the oxygen and they take the carbon dioxide. Yes.
exactly. So
I thought it
so
was bigger. I thought it was bigger. Just to recall that. I mean, 26%. That's Africa and all the areas of some Asia, right?
yeah. So that's really not, I wish that were much higher.
Yeah.
And then you can see fresh water is only 1%. Okay. Cropland, so crops minus land for animal feed. So that's the purple there, 7%.
Okay.
The small woody vegetables, the shrubs are 8% around Australia and the islands. And then the kind of in the north, barren land with deserts, salt flats, rocks is 19%, with glaciers 10%. So I'm showing you this, Carrie, just so you know that, wow, we devote a lot of our land to raising and growing livestock. And I'm going to also, to answer your question about plant forward diet, let's look at other impacts of the way we grow our food. Okay, so here is a carbon emissions, okay, CO2 emissions of food production. So I'll give you a moment to look at this.
Yes, please.
On the left, you can see it's pounds of carbon dioxide equivalent for if you're, a pound of edible weight. So in other words, for beef, red meat, look how high that is in terms of the carbon emissions. And that's because cows, as you may know, produce a lot of methane again, whether it's like through cow burps, cow farts, and manure. And that releases a lot of methane. Again, we mentioned that earlier, how that's 21% more powerful than CO2. So beef alone is very high in terms of the carbon emissions. And then if you kind of continue to work your way down, I was really surprised that cheese was as high as it was. I love cheese.
I'm like, okay, this is not so good. Like, it's a lot.
So maybe we just cut down a little bit. I still can't give up cheese. And also back to beef. Well, maybe it is like, maybe we just cut back and not have as much beef, or if you can afford to treat yourself to beef that's raised humanely, that's raised by the grass fed once in a while. I mean, that could be, then you're supporting, those farmers that are trying to have less impact on the environment than industrial farming. But if you are really craving meat, then maybe the choices should be opt or have pork. Chicken, poultry is farther down, and fish. Those would be better choices that we can make as individually in our choosing our diet than red meat. Again, if you want to have red meat, maybe just don't have it as often. So I have the meat here, but then if you look over here on the other end, little impacts with rice and legumes, beans and grain products and vegetables and fruit. I mean, wow, the carbon emissions are much lower.
Yeah, I was thinking, you know what, like when God created earth and heaven, he created human beings and he created plants and fruits, you know, base nutrition there. And there was not meat at the beginning. And then just thinking like if everybody will have this kind of like rice, legumes, grain products, general vegetable, like general fruits and tree nuts and just egg and nothing from meat or just fish, there will be a huge impact in the earth, like a huge, everything that you have here is like meat has a lot of emissions, like pork, including cheese that I love, beef, like it's amazing how can we reduce a lot if we are having like this plant-based forward diet that we are talking about, like wow.
Yeah. And so, and also, so we saw the land use, we're seeing the carbon emissions, and then there's also the water impacts. So I'll show you this climate change impact of water in the United States. Again, we use 55% of water in the United States is used for the animal agriculture. I don't have it for other countries, but that is a lot. So I thought that here's another diagram comparison. So if you just think of gallons of water to produce 1 pound of different kinds of food. So check this out, Carrie. For 1 pound of beef, it's 1,800 gallons of water. Wow. For 1 pound. And then as you start to move your way down, 1,000 gallons of water for 1 gallon of milk. And we're lucky now because we see more milk alternatives, like you can have the rice based or soy or, you know, other kinds of
almond, there's a lot.
And then 900 pounds of gallons to produce 1 pound of cheese. And then for soybeans, which I know from Argentina, you export a lot of soybeans, which is so healthy for us. 206 gallons of water for 1 pound of soybeans. So again, changing our diet, again, you know, less carbon for more plant forward, less carbon emissions, less water, and less, you know, and also it affects our land use. So
and less diseases in our body, because I was thinking like all the healthy, you know, diseases that we have because we don't eat okay and we don't eat well. So it helps us to take off our cholesterol and a lot of issues that we have in our vessels and in everything that we are carrying in our body because of meat and because of milk, of the celiac people like I am. So like there's a lot of things that we can do with this gallons of water of the awareness to produce, how they produce it, and what, like you said, I will read it because I forget, farm to fork to landfill, like the farm to fork in our home. I mean, that's incredible. It's incredible how many things we can do to avoid what is going on earth. Like we are the ones, we are the guardians of it. So it's amazing. And why is eating like in this water cycle and the farm to fork to landfill, eating a plant forward diet a good thing for us apart from all of this?
So it's a good reason because I have another slide and then I will.
Hey, okay.
So plant forward, we can go over that, meat on the side, plants forward, but people who eat, so it's not only a healthier planet if we are more plant forward, but it's a healthier you and me.
Okay.
And this is from the American Heart Association. They have a 2019 report. And so people who eat a plant forward diet are healthier. They're at, as you can see, a 6% lower risk of having a heart attack or stroke.
Wow.
3% lower risk of dying from heart disease, and then 25% lower risk of dying from any cause. So pretty, you know, it helps. Yeah.
in percentage is a lot. I mean, we eat every day. It's not that, oh, 6% is not so much. We eat every day. We are having percentages in our bodies every day for what we eat. And our food is our fuel. So whatever we are eating, it's in accordance of what we are having in our lives to survive. So wow, what about buying these organic fruits and veggies that you just show us? Like they're expensive, but they're worthy the money?
So I think that I want to be sensitive because you're right that organic can be more expensive, and with the pandemic and just the struggles that the world is facing, it's it's we can say yes, buy organic, but it is more expensive. So I want to be sensitive to, it's easier said than done. However, if you can buy closer to the source, if there is a local farmer or a local farmers market, if you can buy from closer to, you're not having the middleman in there, that if you're buying closer to where the food is being grown, that's much better. Organic food, if you can afford it, it's what I think it's all about: supply and demand. There's a greater supply, no, there's a greater demand for organic food than there is supply. So that's one of the reasons why the prices are so high. And another reason is it's very labor intensive to go grow more organically. If more and more people are able to, if the demand increases, if more and more people are able to support food that's not grown with pesticides, then eventually the prices can come down. Now, not all organic, you can be choosy about some of your organic foods. In fact, if there is what's known as the dirty dozen, in other words, there's 12 fruits and vegetables that are higher in pesticides than others. So maybe if you have a choice, you opt for trying to do go for the dirty dozen, and I can show that to you if you'd like.
Yes, please. I am not aware of that. So please, yes. I mean,
Okay.
there's a comfort zone in human beings just to grab whatever they have in front and just go to the things that they have there and not move themselves to be healthier or do things better for themselves. I mean, a healthy me is a healthy you, because what I am driving into the world is what I am inside to the outside. So a healthy me makes a healthy you, and we are healthy together. And that's like the cycle. So the awareness of this, like, it's so important to be knowing what we need to do to be healthier in every area of our lives, and that will bring the healthy earth that we all proclaim, because we are activists in every single area for climate change and everything. But what are we doing for ourselves to
Yeah.
deliver that to the earth?
Yeah. So I'll share with you
Yeah.
the dirty dozen. So in other words, let me just hit present again. So
Mhm.
this is showing, if you're going to buy organic, where should you maybe spend your money or be more mindful? And strawberries that are grown, strawberries tend to have a lot of pesticides in them. So that might be something where you might switch out and say, I'm going to treat myself, if your budget allows, to strawberries that are grown without pesticides. So these are why it's the dirty dozen, because they're the ones that really will collect those pesticides. So you can see strawberries and spinach and kale, collard and mustard greens, those really dark leafy greens. It's better to try and go more organic. Nectarines, like apricots, apples, grapes, cherries, peaches, pears, bell and hot peppers, celery, and tomatoes. So those are, if you can, if you're trying to just think there's a lot here, I can share this with you, Carrie. So if any of your, audience members would like to see that, I'll share the slides. But those are just, I thought that was just kind of interesting. So there are some tips that we can do to try and move to do two things: reduce our food waste and also go plant forward. and I can share them with you. We kind of talked about a bit with them, but if you'd like, I can share that with you.
Yes, please. I love your sharings. It's so inspiring.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right,
I
let's
love
see.
to do the cookie by list. Yeah.
Okay, so I said two tips: eat plant forward and limit food waste. And so the first one is if we, and we, as we said, we talked about this, if we can consume less, if we eat less meat, that's good. And then as we talked about, if we can buy locally sourced in season from our local farmer, and if hopefully the farmer is organic. So that's where aim for organic. In other words, try and go without the pesticides. This is a good money saving tip, is buying in bulk. So if you buy those, if you're able to buy in bulk for the rice and the beans, for example, or lots of vegetables, if you buy in bulk, you reduce your packaging, and it's also cheaper. And then this is I love this expression. I didn't make it up. It's been out there. Try being vegan before 6 p.m. In other words, try to not have meat or dairy at breakfast and lunch. Might be a little hard with dairy, but again, we talked about some of the alternatives that are out there for meat. And then you can have that meat on the side for dinner. So try vegan before 6, or also like maybe starting with one day a week where you have meatless Monday. So when we've worked with students in schools, some schools have said, hey, we're going to have meatless Monday on the menu. And that's been great, because now all of a sudden the chefs, the food managers at the schools are now trying to be creative and not have something that's, on Monday, they might be experimenting with tofu or some other kind of, or beans.
So this is like an exercise for everybody, just to know how to exercise your body without eating meat. Like try vegan before 6 p.m. just to exercise your body, because when you leave meat, I did that. It was hard. It was like, oh my gosh, okay, where's my protein? Like,
Right.
What I'm dealing with. Like, I felt like, like without coffee or something like that. So, it was bad. And it was like, okay, this is because I don't have meat in myself. So the meat is like addictive. It's something addictive that we have. And try this exercise is really good, because we can get accustomed to like, do not eat meat in this, in this schedules, timetable that we have. So that's good for our exercise. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought up like, where's my protein? Because I think that if you go towards more plant forward, you can still pack a lot of protein in with the legumes and the beans and the grains. So that's a good thing, or nuts as well. So that's the plant forward.
To replace to replace the proteins from the meat. I mean, I work out. I love working out, and I love to study all nutrition and everything for the health of my body and everything, for myself, of my brains and everything. So one of the main things that the workouters do, and the ones that are in the gym or the ones that work from that, is like have a lot of meat, like a lot of meat, just to have protein in your bodies and your muscles to be fit. So this is a good way of saying like you have another alternative. It's not only meat. You have another that is as good or better than the meat. Like the meat has a lot of protein, yes, but it has a lot of things that are not good for our bodies, for our health, for our organs. So that's a very good their point there, that there's a lot of protein in fruits and legumes, and like everything that you're pointing here in organic food, like inside the food system that you're trying to let us aware of everything, like there's protein here also. It's not just carbohydrates, there's
Right.
a lot of protein here.
Yeah, in fact, Carrie, have you tried any of those plant-based meat burgers? Have you tried any?
No.
Well, I have to tell you that I went hiking. I was out in California with my daughter, Tony. We were on a trip, and we stopped at this burger place, and they had the plant-based burger, and all the other burgers as well. So when we ordered it, we got a plant-based cheeseburger, and it had the tomato and the lettuce and the cheese. And when we cut into it, we said, oh no, they made a mistake. They must have given us the meat burger, not the plant-based burger. So we went back and said, oh, you gave us the wrong thing. And they said, no, 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 that's the plant-based burger. So it was, I'm blanking on the name of the meat. There's Beyond Beef, but then, oh, it was the Impossible Burger. And it's coated with like coconut oil or some kind of oils that it kind of looks greasy like that, you know.
Yeah,
and
coconut
even,
oil is greasy, yeah.
yeah, and even inside when we cut it, like it looked like meat and it tasted really good. And so we enjoyed it, and it still has protein. And we didn't feel that bloated. Sometimes if you eat a big cheeseburger, we felt, you know, we felt pretty good. So
or the ribs or the steak, you know, the barbecue ribs that were there. Yes, no, I have like had hamburgers. I have the ones that are made with a pumpkin, and the ones that have legumes there, like soybeans and everything. So yeah, I love those. They're really very good for my health. So I love those. But yes, I am literally going to do that. But that's a good point, because you know, like people that doesn't have their resources, economical resources to buy those things, what they can do for this. I mean, it's very hard for them to go organic or to do whatever they want to do to be healthy, because they don't have the money to buy these things. And unfortunately, organic food is really expensive. It should not be that way. We should have, everybody should have access to be healthy.
Yeah, agreed.
Not healthy, but unfortunately the world is like that, and enterprises love to be profitable with food, and it should be not an issue in the United Nations. That SDG authority shouldn't be there, but we have that. So how can they, with economical resources very slow in their homes, can have a plant-based diet? How can they turn from that?
So to have a more plant-based diet, you can so as I was mentioning, like buy in bulk. Also, for more plant, I have this book. Here is, I'm kind of combining plant-based, but also it's called Zero Waste Cookbook.
Wow, that's awesome. I want that. That's awesome. Yeah.
So what's great is like there are ways that, you know, if I am having beets, and I don't really like beets, but I'm just using, I saw that was a here it is. It has sauteed beetroot leaves with garlic and cheese. So they're basically taking the beet. I don't know if you can see that, but
yeah. Oh my God. Yes, I love
turning it into a really delicious meal. Here. So that's just an example of like trying to use the whole plant, or trying to use parts that we normally might be discarding, and that can stretch out your meal as well.
So it's like the farm to fork landfill, like the farm to fork home. We have the farm, we need to buy this organic fruit and vegetables and whatever we need for the plant-based diet. We come to our home and we have to cook there. So there's a production for us to get to the healthy body, to get to the healthy environment, to get to the healthy earth. It's not like magic. There's a process in everything, but that way we are helping everything around us, like not just us, like everything around us, right?
Yes, exactly. So there are some tips that that also can kind of save money. And then I'll show one other tip in terms of reducing food waste, but also, let me just bring that, but also, let me bring that up for a minute. Okay, so these are tips to limit your food waste. And let me bring that and present again. So we looked at plant forward, but now these are tips to limit food waste. And so if you pick items that have less packaging, that's of course better, because you're not then having to throw away a lot of plastic or cardboard or whatever it is. And if you purchase only what you'll eat, that will of course limit food waste, but also be better on, help save money as well. And also, I think that, by the way, like if you can shop alone, I know that's hard for, you know, parents out there that have young kids. I know when I would go food shopping with my kids and they'd be in the cart, all of a sudden there would be some cookies and other things that I wasn't planning on buying. So if you can shop alone, but I also know that's easier said than done. But also, so plan your meals ahead and have that shopping list and really stick to that. And then I think review your refrigerator contents weekly. A lot of times, food gets in the back of the refrigerator and you forget about it. And then it either gets sour and you have to throw it away. So just making, whether it's like Sunday, you're reviewing your fridge, what's in the fridge, what can I turn into leftovers. Leftovers are great. And then serving smaller plates and portions. Again, that's limiting food waste, but also saving money. And then wait to throw your food out, as we talked about. And if maybe there's, and then if you can, compost what's left. And so if it's either, if you have access to composting in your yard, or if there is a service that you can compost, then those are some tips to reduce your food footprint.
So everything in the food waste can be appreciated just to know how to divide them. I mean, we can appreciate everything in the food waste, but we need to be aware how to divide the food waste just to be doing the correct thing for that.
That how we can divide, yes.
Okay.
So I'm gonna, let's see, I'm gonna stop share there, so.
Okay, so we need to cook, being aware of what we cook, and then we need to be aware of what when we clean, the women like go there to clean. Okay, we need to be aware what food waste we have to divide to the trash and like all the bags. I mean, just to get them to the other trash, from the building, or just to the city, to clean the city and everything, to be healthy there. So one of the things that I think that the audience wants to know how to do is like, what's your advice for them? Like our humble audience here that doesn't know what to do now, because they will be like, oh my gosh, I am so bad at home. Like I throw everything and it's okay because you didn't know, but now you know better. So what's your advice for them? How can they do some things in their home just to help themselves out and help the environment, of course?
Okay, great question. I think start small. Just maybe pick one thing, whether it's back to like maybe on Monday, I'm going to keep using the meatless Monday. Maybe, one day a week you say, I'm not going to have meat, or I'm going to have, really pack in my vegetables. So just start small. Or even if it's that vegan before 6 p.m., hey, I'm going to try and have maybe 3 days a week, I'm going to have no meats for breakfast and lunch. I also think be kind to yourself. Like, so if you don't reach those goals, that's okay. But just to be, kind of conscious of, making some small changes. And I think those small changes can then build out and influence others. And all of a sudden, talking to people who were myself, if I was doing 1 day a week of meatless, now my husband and I, we tend to eat many days a week that we're meatless. And so we will have, but that's just from starting somewhere very small first. And then to create changes in habits, you need to repeat something. I think I can't remember, like 75 times before it really becomes.
You need 21 days to create a habit. I am
31.
Like
okay.
21 days to create a habit. So imagine like 21 days trying vegan before 6 p.m. You create the habit for the body also to know that you're not going to eat meat, and the body will say like, hey, I need meat. Okay, you are not having meat. Hey, I need, like it's that confrontation with the goodness that we need to have to be healthy. So so what advice could you give us just to end this? I will talk with you like hours about this subject, and I definitely will have another section of food waste, literally from the agriculture section also, so they can know what the farm to fork, what happens in the farm as we speak in the fork here. So we can have another session here of this subject. I love this subject, and it's really one of the main things as climate change is for mitigating the global warming. I really believe that. So what is your last advice for reducing our footprint?
I think that just being mindful of like what we're throwing away And then also trying to be mindful of putting in some more plants and fruits and vegetables in your meal. I think like if you and I basically went to like skipping meat 1 day a week, now all of a sudden times 52, those are 52 days in a year that we have not. So you and I now together, 104 meals, and think about that with, for our families. So I think again, back to like some small changes, and then, but just being mindful of our choices that we make with food and our waste. So.
Right, the awareness and the mindfulness, like at the interconnection of both, so we can understand how to do the things, and faith in action, right? Like whatever we are saying, to apply it in our lives, because we can talk about this a lot, but if we don't apply it, there's nothing to talk about, just like it's going to be literally something that we do like everybody does, and we are being activists for nothing. So what we talk here, we apply in our lives, and we try to be better, so the environment and the earth can be better too, because we are the guardians of it. So by our example of being aware of what is going on and why we are like this, we can do better everywhere that we go. And that's the message here, that the perspective, sustainable thoughts that we need to have is getting aware and mindfulness of everything that we need to do to be better and better our environment. So this is the section of vision that we have here, to know that the cultural patterns that our ancestors had of eating meat or whatever they do is not the actual earth that we have today. It's a consequence of everything that we are not doing. So this is the awareness that we need to do for our future generations and your grandsons and everywhere, that we need to know that we need to change. So everything around us changed. So thank you so much, Marianne. It was such a pleasure.
Carrie, thank you so much. Really lovely talking to you, and thank you for all that you're doing, and was really, really wonderful. So
thank you so much. May God bless you. I saw your husband, and be happy to your husband. I be happy to your children, to your grandsons, everybody there. You're so blessed. And I thank you so much for this. And we are definitely having a second section from food waste and everything from the farm to the fork and the home. I want everybody to get aware and mindfulness of that, and they need to have their actions to be aware for that. So thank you so, so much. Once again, thank you. We'll be having you again.
All right. Thank you,
So
Carrie.
thank you so much to our audience. As always, just be aware and be mindfulness of what you're doing. Your perspective, sustainable perspective in your mind and your heart, can change your cultural patterns of thousands of years in your family and your environment that you have around you. So thank you for being here once again. And we see you next Saturday of the month of April. We are having a great speaker as usual. Thank you so much to everybody. Have a good night and a great weekend.